all new. AM1150WTMP.com.
Alrighty. It's that time again, folks. People's is, just to make it a lighthearted day. We're not gonna get so serious like we normally. We try not to get too serious, but sometimes it end up that way. So anyway, welcome to Porch Talk Radio on this fine Saturday 3-day weekend for you working people, whether you go into the office or whether you stay home. It's Memorial Day weekend, and Memorial Day is not about the vets who survived. It's about the vets who made the ultimate sacrifice, and we got the people who served and came home, and then we had the people who served and didn't come home. So this is about the folks who didn't come home. So anyway, special weekend, and Porch Talk Radio, gives out a special prayer, special honor, special thank you for your service, to all the folks who serve in our militaries, in our wars, and times of peace. So,
amen.
If you're going to call in to the show today, the call-in number, just a call-in show, Porch Talk Radio, 813-251-9867, 813-251-9867. If you want to text me my cell phone number, if you want to call me after the show, or sometime during the week, because I am actually going to ask you today to send me some information. So if you don't have it, write it down. Eddie Adams Jr. cell phone, 813-12. Eddie Adams Jr. cell phone, Eddie, E-D-D-I-E, 813-12. Email, Eddie, E-D-D-I-E, PorchTalkRadio.com. So, we got some stuff up, and I mentioned to a lot of you guys and girls, men, women, boys and girls, make sure I cover everything. And we're not on that it, them, they stuff. I'm just saying, for
you're not being PC, Eddie.
For all intents and purposes, we haven't been politically correct, and that's not our mantra on this show. It is a lot of shows that invest, a lot of their time, energy, and effort in being politically correct.
Foolishness.
Not this show.
Just foolishness.
So anyway, what I want to do, and anybody who's listened to the show before, and we've been doing this for over 10 years, I just want you to know I own property. I own 4 houses, have access to 4 houses, whatever you want to call it, paying taxes on 4 houses in Camden, New Jersey.
How's all that money coming in from rent doing?
Why you want to do that?
It's not, Eddie. They're not paying.
It's but I'm not talking about me and my finances. What I'm talking about is the communication among members of a community. How do you move a community forward? How do you get people to talk about concerns that are serious enough to have the power that be take you seriously? So because I own property, like many of you do's and dudettes, you may own property somewhere where you don't live, and a lot of times, the local community frowns upon that. But again, the people that make the decisions about what happens, the policies, the issues, there has to be communication among those people. And I have said this repeatedly, and some of you people have experienced it, because you know what I'm talking about. Dealing with black folks is an art form.
Mm-hmm.
Everybody can't do it. All black people cannot do it. The nature of it is you gotta put the community ahead of your individual preference, hatred, greed, envy, jealousy, and say there's something more important to the group soul being achievement than my personal like or dislike for certain individuals. When I was working through a process there in Camden, Camden, New Jersey, finding out who the important, as Tim sometimes say, impotent, which means something different, but we just
The white guy would say that.
yeah. It's a. I go talk to a person with resources.
Mm-hmm. Means.
In the community, millions of dollars. Talk to elected officials, and just for the record, many of the elected officials are a lot younger than I am. I'm an old boy from the South, and you may say, ma'am, no ma'am, sir, yes ma'am, no sir, and you grow up doing it because everybody, as you're coming up, is older than you are. It's a form of respect.
Oh yeah, or you're beaten.
Then you reach the point where most of the people you're talking to and most of the people you're dealing with are younger than you. And what I do is I call people by their first name.
Okay.
Not out of respect, because, many of them haven't earned my respect. I'm just saying, that's the way I do it. Everybody do it a little differently. Or do it, so that they stay in their own comfort zone. It's hard for me to say Mr. or Miss to somebody who's 20 years old.
Oof.
I'm just saying, it's a hard process. And I don't demand that they say Mr. Adams or Mr. Eddie, even though a lot of them do. And I'm saying all that to say this. When I talk to people in general, here, there, Lake Wales, where I come from, St. Pete, where I worked for 10 years, black folks have in common certain habits.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of them come from 400 years of slavery and being depressed as people by the society, systematic racism. I mean, a lot of excuses, show up. But many of these are issues within our own community that holds the community as a whole. It holds the community down. Mm-hmm. We can't get things done like when I was in Canada. because the people who you need to get in the same room as a community couldn't drop their territorial disputes and issues for the whole community, for all the factions within the community itself. We couldn't demand anything of the white folks because we were too busy cussing and fussing and trying to destroy the black folks. These are the black folks cussing and fussing and trying to destroy other black folks. I can't be in the same room with X person, Y person, so and so have been 20, 30 years taking advantage of black folks. So it's my responsibility to make sure that I can't ever work with this person, regardless of the way these people, this person looks at me. And what I'm trying to do, what I was trying to do, is say, these are the people that need to be in the room and on the board, chalkboard or marker board or whatever, piece of paper in front of the room. These are the issue, or not even walk in the room with the issues, have on the blackboard community, the whole of the community. Not east, not west, not south, not north, not central, because in Camden they do have North Camden, which is where black folks live, East Camden, West Tampa, South Camden, downtown, Central Camden, To look at it as a whole community and say, can we put this in front of, above our individual plots, fights, and a lot of time, the answer is no. They are taking, they were taking all of this stuff personal, even though there's limits to what each faction could do for itself on the big stage and on the big picture. And if by some means they had to cooperate, communicate, prepare, help organize something bigger than themselves for the whole community, they couldn't do it.
So they let everything go down in flames, Eddie?
Everything, like I started this conversation out, we are our own worst enemy. And like I said a couple of weeks ago, I went to the CRA presentation over for the city of Tampa CRA, and other communities have the same thing, and they have literally converted. And anybody who's from Camden, North Camden is the waterfront for Camden, New Jersey. I mean, they got the water. It could all be beaches if someone had developed it all to be beaches. Sure. But right now, it's mostly warehouses, kind of like Davis Island used to be. Davis Island used to be all warehouses until some developer came in and decided he was going to put up $1 million houses and condos and all kind of other stuff, there. But somebody came along, had the vision. it wasn't me, but they showed the people that if we work together, temporarily, actually take the hatchet out of the back of that person who looks like us, who is right next to us, and all decide that we're going to work together for the common good, that there are some things that could happen. Now I'm going to tell you, you got to get the elected officials in the room. You got to get the stakeholders in the room. You got to get the developers. You got to get the black developers in the room. The NAACP, the Urban League, the other organizations, frats, fraternities, sororities, in the room. Because it's not about power, individual power that's been collected, assembled. It is how much power we have as a group of people. Because an individual can make demands. And for the most part, our history tells us that they can be ignored.
Big time.
But the powers that be within our community, if the right folks, and you know here who the right folks could be or would be, are in the room and could temporarily, we ain't ask you to kumbaya, sing and dance and cheer each other on. We're asking for you to sit down like in a general business meeting.
Like adults.
I worked for Tampa Journal for 20 years. And every day, when I clocked in, I had to put on a business face. I had to work with a whole bunch of people who I did not like. Bettermore, who I knew did not like me.
How many years?
20 years.
Woo.
And like most people, it's not the job, it's not the work, it's the people you work
Big time.
with.
You got that. That's right.
Who can make your life miserable because you got to deal with them every day, good or bad. So what you do is you fashion a position that'll get you through today. And you do it one day at a time for 20 years. And most of you, when you walk away from your job, or when you dismissed from your job and you're walking down the hall with all your stuff in your hand and
cardboard box.
And you're being escorted, out of the building. I mean, because everybody don't leave on the good terms.
No.
But it's something that you learn to deal with, learn to do, and the longer you deal with and learn, the longer you do it, the better you become at it. So all I'm asking, all I asked people to come together and have a conversation. And the folks in Camden knew what they wanted. That wasn't the issue.
Okay.
How they got there was what the conversation was about. And just having the conversation was a big deal. Because you could not get the primary players, not the secondary, tertiary, players in the room, it took an outside force, like it always do with us.
Mm-hmm.
And I would like to say, I saw it happen in St. Pete. One of the reasons I saw it in St. Pete because I was working for an architectural firm that was responsible for implementing the city's plan to do a facade program on 22nd Street
Okay.
and 16th Street, which is the black community over in St. Pete. And that was 20 years ago.
Hmm.
We did, or we was part of the architectural team. If you guys have ever heard of Jordan Park, literally what Jordan Park looks like now, because part of our plan involved taking the old Jordan Park and pretty much demoing the whole site. I mean, literally dug up the roads, tore down all the houses,
Mm-hmm.
and pretty much started from scratch. Camden was just an example, and a lot of you guys don't know what North Camden and downtown Camden may look like, where it came from and where it went.
Mm-hmm.
But most of you guys can see St. Pete right across the bay. And in order for us to have the potential to make anything community-wide, now I'm talking about us.
Tampa.
I'm talking about East Tampa, West Tampa,
Mhm.
South Tampa, the county, the city. We got to start working together. And I know I said it. I mean, I talked on this radio program for about 2 years about how do we get a black bank, black credit union, how do we get everything started. And that effort went a long way because, you know, like I was telling somebody earlier today, we knew that we had potential if we got the churches involved. But
Mhm.
what I did know, I didn't know David Strass was going to step up and help us find a bank that was already in existence in the state of Florida
Mm-hmm.
and come up or propose $5 million. You know, we talking about trying to start from scratch. Tell you what we knew,
Mm-hmm.
what we didn't know. But we had consultants. We had some experts. We had one guy on our committee that had run a credit union for over 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
David Strass was on there. We had about 3 bankers. We had a couple of black bankers that was on the committee. And everybody on the committee was pretty much in agreement that this was something the community needed. And it was just a matter of us putting together some resources and making it happen.
Mm-hmm.
And the major resource was, $5 million. Because that's what the bank would have cost. Everybody know that David Strass passed away unexpectedly. He was on a fishing trip with some business folks, and from what the story is, they went in to wake him,
Mm.
and they found him dead. I'm just saying what the newspaper account
Sure.
was, But what I'm saying was we went into that having an idea, having a plan, and it's just a matter of us getting the proper resources in the right place. And we went on air talking about that for probably 18 months.
Wow, yeah.
And then we started having meetings with people and like I told someone this morning, if you start something with good intentions and the right people willing to move mountains,
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
you can move it. It's happened many times in many cities throughout this country. And like I keep saying, I went to the CRA meeting not knowing what to expect, but to have seen the presentation of what they're doing right there in St. Pete and then ignore it, I would not have been able to live with myself.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know how bad something needs to be done. And I go to a lot of meetings. I'm a member of a lot of different groups and organizations. And the major problem in the hood, in the black community,
Mm-hmm.
most groups, organizations, and the folks who live here have the same complaints. And I don't even have to tell you what they are. All you got to do is think about it. We have resources within our community. And I don't think St. Pete has that many more different types of resources over in Pinellas County than we got here in Hillsborough County.
Okay. But can you bring them together here in Hillsborough?
Well, the effort and the issue is going to be how I started this thing is, can we get the right people? And I don't know who the right people are. And that's where I'm gonna need your help. I gave out my phone number, and I know it's gonna cost me a lot of money because I actually pay after I get so many text messages. It costs money, but you can call me, text me, email me some of the people who you think need to be in the room.
With resources.
No, I mean, just tell me who you think.
Yeah.
Because what's going to happen is we're going to have some people in the room with more resources than others. It can't be a I got more than you kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's got to be a thing that's saying, oh, the community as a whole, the black community, not East Tampa, not West Tampa, South Tampa, the county. It can't be factions. It can't be the NAACP, against the Urban League,
Because that's what's gotten you here already.
Against TOBA,
Yeah,
against, the Saturday morning breakfast group, whatever independent organization or group, CDC, this group, that group, no, that's not going to work.
Mm-hmm.
And what we got to do, I remember I saw, a Western. I remember in the old days, in certain towns, when you got into town, they took your guns. You had to hang your guns, had to hang your guns on the wall. So when you got to talk with people, you didn't get so mad that you had a shootout in the saloon. Because once some people get an instant courage, they need to talk, and then
liquid courage.
Then you say something, somebody else say something, and as opposed to debating and coming to a civil agreement, if you had your gun handy, you just decided this SOB needed to be dead.
Now.
And it became your job to shoot and kill them. And that's what they did. A lot of times, a lot of the stories, a lot of those stories you hear about the good old West and folks, even in Congress and in Parliament over in London, in England. Those guys get mad and they have fist fights
Yes, they do.
on a regular basis, beat the hell out of somebody, beat them with a stick, beat them with a cane, whatever the deal is. I'm saying we know that happens.
Mm-hmm.
But if you put up your gun, you put your organization on the wall when you walk in the room, because it's important that everybody feel safe and that they can have this conversation. Because if they don't have the conversation and they don't feel like they can talk openly,
Mm-hmm.
the room is going to fester more harm
Right.
than good. And a lot of people who I have talked to locally, they have the same issue, same problem here as they had in Camden, as they had in Lake Wales, as they had in St. Pete. It's just a different set of black folks. But the nature of black folks is still the same. We don't trust each other. Envy. So people hate jealousy, but they won't call it that.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes that may be what it is. And then for some reason or other, many of us feel it's our obligation to defend the whole race. So and so and so have screwed black folks for 30 years.
Oh yeah, I hear
40
it.
years.
I hear with
50
Hispanics, Eddie, all
you
the
know.
time. Same thing.
Their family has screwed black folks.
Uh-huh.
They have not meant us any good as a people.
But that doesn't help the process go forward, Eddie.
It don't help the process any at all.
At all.
So the first thing we got to do, get the folks in the room, take away all the guns, knives, hatchets, and have a conversation. And for me, I'm thinking, you know, the one conversation, the one thing that all the groups and organizations in Tampa have in common is that we should be able to come together and fight as a community.
Mm-hmm.
And go to the mayor, city council, county commission,
In numbers.
and not crawl,
Mm-hmm.
beg, but make some demand. Make them reasonable. How you come up with reasonable demand?
Mm-hmm.
Make it that all the factions are all working. They may come from different parts of the county, parts of the city. There may be frats and sororities and nun find nuns or whatever. But the goal is the uplift of the entire black community. And I know it's easier to divide and conquer.
Mm-hmm.
The hardest thing to do is for everybody to come together and work for a common cause. Because there's always, well, so and so and so works harder than so and so and so.
Mm-hmm.
We got to get past that. And I ain't gonna say, oh, the work always gets divided up equally. You know that don't happen.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's some people who may have the mayor's ear, and there's other people that the mayor don't like.
Mm-hmm.
So no matter what that person says, the mayor not gonna listen to him. I'm
Right.
just telling you.
Yeah.
I'm just saying. That's why you can't individually or this group or that group make a demand. It's got to be non-partisan. This is political, but it's not Democrat, Republican,
Mhm.
independent political. It is an issue of the entire community having. I heard on a show earlier today where the professor at USF said she had 80, 90-something other professors, faculty, staff members at USF signed something, and they took it to the president or the provost. Well, this is something where if you got the right people in the room, and they make a joint agreement, statement, and you go to the mayor, and you go to the county commissioners as a collaborative with the same feeling, and the group speaks for all those, the undersigned, you're going to get more done.
Oh, yeah.
And you're going to get a better understanding.
Big time.
And what you always do, put a time stamp on it. You know, don't make a demand and say you got forever to get this done. This got a year. This got 2 years.
Put some urgency in it.
Make it something reasonable. And have it be stuff that can be done. You just have to have the power that be make the right decisions. And the power that be always disagrees. That can't be the fight. The fight has to be, we know what the problem is, and we got possible solutions. You know that's one thing that everybody knows what the issues are most of the time. The problem is how do you solve those particular problems. And so what I'm talking about is not only getting the right people in the right room, coming up with the problems, and not just handing off the problems, but handing off the problems with possible solutions. All you got to do is make sure that the resources are available. And I heard that the mayor of Tampa on TV, she got a plan. And I've heard a couple of people earlier today talk about the mayor's plan. There's no reason a couple of 100,000 black folks in Hillsborough County should be left out of the mayor's plan.
That wouldn't happen, Eddie.
And I ain't saying that they are, but I ain't saying that I didn't hear her say that they were. So I'm automatically assuming if she ain't called out, and if I missed it, somebody gonna call in and tell me, let me know that it was anything that she was majorly planning to happen within our community. So I'm just putting it out there and letting you know, and the folks at Porch Talk Radio take this stuff seriously. I don't start campaigns lightly. But I'm also telling you to text, email me some folks who you would like to see in that room and be a part of this decision-making process. I had people tell me, you don't have to go on the radio with that. But see, that's part of the issue. That's part of the problem. Everybody feels differently about these type of things. And it's a whole segment of the population sitting back waiting to complain. I told you so. I told you it wouldn't work. I told you it wouldn't happen. I told you this. I told you that. Okay? But that's ingrained in dealing with black folks.
Well, Eddie, but I think you're bringing out the fact that if people are not being involved and being active and bringing it to the attention of, hey, we need to fix something here, and if they just keep it quiet, then decades continue passing on, and the same old continues to happen. The complainers keep complaining, and I think you hit it the nail on the head with, let's bring solutions to the table. We know the problems.
Right.
Let's bring solutions, and let's bring the decision makers that can make those solutions happen. And our differences, which do exist, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's agree on 3 things that we can move forward in the community for the good of the community. And the complainers, you know what? Y'all can just take the night off. Y'all just stay home, can do what you've always done, which is not help your community, not help the cause, the black community, become any better by just whining and complaining and becoming really a problem. You're not a solution. You're just a problem. And whether it's been decades of you being trained to just complain and do nothing, we're needing the people that are ready to do something. Let's get together and communicate to Eddie who some decision makers can be that have resources, that have connections. They can say, let's get together and let's finally go forward with something. And it may not be perfect, Eddie.
No.
But if you don't do anything, you'll continue decades later right here.
Well, one of the things, like I said, I saw the presentation about St. Pete and what's happening over there.
Mm-hmm.
And the person who made the presentation did it and said they're using, I went to a CRA meeting, so they say they're using CRA monies that the city gives to the different segments of the community. That's taxpayers' money going back
To the community. Okay.
And I did hear one of our county commission, city council members say that St. Pete was investing not only in bricks and mortar, but was investing in people. And that the way it's being done, or the way it's set up over here, is we can only invest in bricks and mortar. And I don't know, but I am sure that the legal folks in Pinellas and St. Pete could find out a way to improve the black community over there, that there are people here, just across the bay, that can be able to examine the same policies and procedures and what have you, law advocates can twist, turn, pretty much figure out how they did it over there, and do the same thing if they consider it to be a positive, not a negative, positive, something that we can do here for these people and for our people.
Eddie, you know, as politics goes, anything can happen if enough people get together on the same page and tell their employees, these mayors and city officials, which is technically our employees, because our tax dollars pay them.
Right.
If the person listening right now would understand that's your employee, and if you don't direct that employee, just like an employee would in any other company, they'll go do their own thing.
Yeah, yeah, and I want to say something else too. And I'm not trying to change the subject, but black folks, and I know we got a caller, that have been under the boot, under the heel, under the knee of folks and other folks for years. I used the Chinese community to say, you know, the Chinese community haven't had it a whole lot better than we have, but what they've learned to do is work together, create their own communities, which they've had since the 1800s, control their own properties, even have hospitals. And I know, black folks occasionally talk about reparations, but the reparations were given to Japanese who was in concentration camps here in the United States.
Mm-hmm.
And many of those folks who was in concentration camps 2 years after the war was over, they were still in U.S. concentration camps, had not created any crime. I'm not trying to generate sympathy. I'm just telling you that being mistreated has happened to a lot of folks.
Mm-hmm.
Now, how do you take it? Those folks organized, got together, and demanded that they be compensated for it. See, it's a difference between begging, asking,
Mm-hmm.
and demanding something of someone. And just for the record, for those who it may have skipped your mind or memory, we talked about the Black Wall Street, what happened in Tulsa, Oklahoma, 100 years ago. It was in 1921 where they had the massacre in Tulsa. And if you go to my Facebook page, you will see there's 70 or 80 incidents in America in which whole town, whole villages, whole cooperatives of black folks were destroyed over a whim, overnight, and not one person was brought to justice. I mean, in the Tulsa, they still counting and finding bodies of mass graves. I saw a special the other night on that. They said 300-400 black folks were killed. And not one person yet has been held legally responsible. Okay, we got a caller. Caller, welcome to Porch Talk Radio. Who are you? Where are you calling from? And what say you? Hello?
Yes, I'm calling from Tampa. Hey, I like your comment and where you're going.
Yes.
I love that you use the same TRA, and like you said, just to piggyback on what you said about some attorneys, the George Edgecombe Bar Association in Tampa ought to be ashamed of themselves. Just like the school board meeting they have an attorney at the end of the table to let them know what they can say. If someone from that bar association would step up and help out our CRA or help out a lot of the stuff that's go on, because some of these people, they scared of lawsuits. Money runs everything. And I felt so bad for the young sister that from USF today that came on the radio talking about numbers. Just because George Floyd happened last year, so now all of a sudden y'all can do this?
Right.
Y'all can increase those numbers Monday. Call WTMP and advertise with them. What was year for? Some of those numbers could be increased in 48 hours. So I just want to say, I just wish that, hopefully you get the right people at that table, Eddie, and, let's get it moving forward. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Appreciate
it. Let me put something else out before I do on this day, and let Gabriel do his thing. Tico,
Mm-hmm.
I just want to know, and don't call me during the show. Text me, email me after the show.
Mm-hmm.
There's executives at Tico who know and understand this whole solar panel energy process thing, where they will come in, install solar panels, and they would take what they want, pay your electric bill, and the rest of it go to the grid.
Mm-hmm.
I have access to 72 acres of land. Of course, we're not going to turn the whole 72 acres into a solar farm,
Mm-hmm.
but there is a portion of that would be great for solar panels, installation, recovery, thing. So if you know any executives Anybody at TICO who has information about that program, if they could send me that person's name and phone number, email address, whatever info you have. If you heard of a person, you know of a person, you got access to a person. I know I get calls every day from somebody who want to do my house, but I don't need to do my house. I got 72 acres of land, in Hillsborough County that the folks are willing to sit down and talk to TICO about some type of solar panel, solar farm deal. So we got that out there. So and my cell phone again is 813-230-3312. Text me and email me at Eddie, EDDIE, at PorchTalkRadio.com. On this day.
All right.
On this day, May the 29th, Wisconsin became the 30th state to join the United States.
Jeez. There you go.
After last week's show, I told you guys that Abraham Lincoln had a patent. He applied and received a patent last week. Well, on this day, May 29th, 1849, a patent for lifting vessels out of the water was granted to Abraham Lincoln.
Oh.
So he had two patents.
Wow.
One for floating docks and another patent for lifting vessels out of the water.
Wow, smart guy.
And president.
And Republican.
And a Republican. On this date, May 29th, 1922, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that organized baseball was a sport and it was not subject to antitrust laws. They've been fussing and fighting to try to keep that thing since 1922. And last but not least, on this date, May 29th, 1973, Tom Bradley was elected the first black mayor of Los Angeles, California. So Los Angeles, with all this diversity, Cleveland, even New York, and a lot of places around the state of Florida have got a black mayor. So St. Pete, you got two black mayoral candidates. Hopefully one of them steps down to help the other one become black mayor of St. Pete. Because if you get a black mayor, then Tampa could get one. So Gabriel.
All right, we're going to lighten just a few seconds. We got half a minute. We're down to the wire here. All right, there was a party next door recently, next to my place, but by judging by the mix of the 90s and early 2000 jams, they wrapped it up by 10 o'clock. That was a bit older crowd there. Some say that if you wear a mask, the state could open up sooner. I'd say if you just voted Republican, it wouldn't be closed. And you can look at that across America right now. Some woke tard was always yelling about defund the police. Got his Mercedes recently stolen. So what does he do? Calls the police. What a fool. Meanwhile, Dr. Fauci admits to not following the science about the mask. He admitted it. He was worried about imagery. In other words, he was pulling stuff out of his butt. Meanwhile, Dr. Fauci and the NIH admit that they gave $600,000 to the Wuhan lab to discover how this virus with COVID thing works. So we funded our own demise. And the first man in the world to get approved for the COVID jab shot is dead. Britt is 81 years old, died of a stroke. It was because of old age, it wasn't because of the shot. Then there's no cancer cure after 100 years of cancer. There's no AIDS vaccine after 40 years of AIDS. But there's a COVID vaccine after 10 months. Yeah. Meanwhile, shots in Chicago and between Chicago and New York, 96 people. been shot. Not one of them was a legal gun owner that did the shooting. Imagine that. And then as we kind of finish up here, 10,000 COVID reinfections reported by fully vaccinated people. And the court said, they said, don't be counting those anymore. Finally, we close. College professor got up and said, if God really exists, then let him knock me out of my chair. Nothing happened. The class was quiet. The professor said, now I will give you 2 more minutes. A Marine vet stood up, punched him in the face, knocking him out of his chair, then sat back down. As the professor came to and looked at the student, and the student said, why did you do that? The Marine said, God was busy protecting my buddy, still fighting for your right to say and do stupid stuff like this. He sent me. Boom.
All right, there you go. There you go. And it's 2 o'clock, and so it's that time again. So until next week, same bat time, same bat station, Tampa Bay. Us folks here at Porch Talk Radio, we love you.
God bless America.
Bye-bye.